Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the new Watchers on the Wall. We are going to be talking about your comments from our last video, and we're also going to take a peek at next week's episode preview.
Yes. So I was able to, in one of the Facebook groups, somebody posted kind of like a screenshot of the preview, and I thought it would be great to go with our question and comment section of today's video. And we also have a special guest. Derek, say what's up to the people.
Hey, people.
So we'll start off by showing you guys the video, and then we'll give you guys our perspective on the preview, and then we will jump into the top questions and comments on our video. Let's do it.
Small day experiment.
What do we do with the body?
We take it inside. You think this place is a small day experiment? You think I'm crazy? And it never occurred to you that some of the people here might be in on it? You okay?
There's something I need to tell you. Is this the symbol you were talking about?
Yeah.
I've seen this on the walls in the tunnels.
Awesome. So I gotta jump right in on the preview. I want to go out of order because I'm crunk and I'm excited. So the thing that stood out to me was when we saw Randall having a conversation with Jim. And I guess Jim, it looks like Jim was telling him that he thinks that this thing is a game. And Randall says something really cool. He says, have you ever thought that there's people around us that are basically in on the game? And how long have we been saying that, Candace?
Since season 1.
Yes. Initially, we thought it was the bartender, but of course he's dead. But even still,
I thought it was Fatima.
but even still, I love that they brought that up because I think that there's still somebody in one of these places that is in the mix.
I think we're close. I think we're right.
I think so too. So what stood out with you guys about the preview?
I think what stood out for me was when they found Smiley the next day, and they were asking, well, what are we going to do? And Boyd says, let's bring them inside. Now, you know how intense I am over this show. And that preview had me intense. Like, don't take him in. I said, cut him open right there on the ground.
Yes. So
I don't want him getting up in there and coming to life, or I don't know what's going to happen. I just did not. I thought that was a bad idea, but we're going to see what happens next week. I can't wait.
Yeah.
So I want to read some of the comments we got, and a lot of you guys had some really good theories that made me and Patrick think oh wow. So the first one we jotted down was from Una Cascade, and they say, my theory: the ballerina is a friend. Why? Because she showed Boyd how to kill the monsters. 1, when she first appeared in the show, she showed him a mouthful of worms.
Sure did.
Number 2, when next time appeared, she was coming out of the cellar in the forest. She seems to guide Boyd and Kenny to the clinic. Number 3, she attacks Boyd first, showing her hand and wrist. The pushing Boyd down, putting her mouth and wrist to his mouth. All these things were exactly what was necessary to kill the monsters. She was visually instructing Boyd, and this is something. I also think the ballerina threw the rope to Boyd when he was in the well. Remember, the ballerina music box was in the dungeon with Martin, right? Also, the root cellar the ballerina came out of will be important later on. Remember that was Victor's hiding place from killer Christopher. Lastly, a question: do you think the ballerina is the boy in the white transform?
Wow.
Sorry for the extra, but the episode was so much in it. 4 cans of peaches.
Yes. Excellent comment. And I love what she said about that, because when the ballerina was there, I think everybody's kind of wondering what role does this ballerina play. You know, we saw it in there with Martin, but her explanation I thought was really cool in helping to somewhat explain it, which I thought was pretty dope.
They said that the ballerina is the little boy in white transformed,
Reincarnated.
but my thing is, I think maybe that each person has their own little boy in white. Just like Tabitha sees the two kids, the little raggedy looking kids. Ethan sees the little boy. Sarah sees the little boy, right? And then Boyd sees the ballerina. I don't think they're the only ones who are seeing things.
Yeah. I mean, I love that
Right.
theory. Go ahead, Derek.
Yeah, because they said that there's some people that can see things and there's other people who can't, and they don't understand why. So I don't know. I don't subscribe to the ballerina being the boy in white. I just think they're just one of these multiple manifestations that they're seeing, and I think part of it is that's these manipulations behind the scene by whoever is controlling this environment.
And I think that's a perfect segue into the second one, Derek. And this is Amanda Chris. She says, I keep telling my husband that this town must have something controlling people, keeping them from being curious, sharing their stories and experiences constantly. And those who do look pay for it.
Didn't Donna say that when Boyd went to go visit her?
It's been mentioned that curious people become obsessed and went mad or died or lost someone. And then she says Boyd has been the most successful, but Abby went mad. Everything that happened in the forest. Is this the price for keeping on? And
if that's the case, is somebody gonna die?
Good question.
One of our main characters?
Yeah, and it's so cool that she said that, because one of the things that we've said constantly, and even other people in forums and stuff, why don't these people talk? Even in the preview that they showed for episode 7, I cannot believe Tabitha is just now telling somebody that the tunnels exist. And then on top of that, you don't tell your husband. Why are you telling another man that? But it goes back to that. Why do some people choose to communicate? Why do they not communicate?
One thing I will say about that, because I was thinking about that earlier, and it might be a continuity thing. I think that we keep thinking these episodes are like a span of a day, and it's probably really a span of minutes or hours. It's not really like
days, weeks. Yeah.
4 episodes probably was like a day and a half.
Yeah. And
so we gotta kind of think of it.
Maybe she didn't, but I subscribe to that. But like I said, the one thing that kind of threw me for a loop is that Tabitha did tell her husband that the wires lead nowhere. And to me, the next sentence that should have came out of her mouth should have been like, I discovered that while I was in the tunnel and I saw these monsters sleep too.
Yeah, and then she didn't mention anything to him about being down there with Victor.
Exactly.
So it's like, I don't see how you do not have that conversation with your husband.
I agree.
Right. So Robert Rubb sent in a comment that said, I thought the fact that there were multiple skeletons in Martin's tower meant that's the only way to preserve these worms. They were kept in the tower until they were discovered by Boyd.
And what he's talking about is there was a chain of comments on there where I said that I knew that from the beginning that the worms were a positive thing. And what's funny is people are kind of saying that in different forums and in the Facebook groups, but I took it to another level in my previous explanation of the video. And if you recall 2 videos ago, I said that there was a movie that Tom Cruise was in where they were fighting these monsters and he accidentally got the monster's blood in him. And what it allowed him to do was to act like how the monsters act. But the one kicker was in that movie was he could not allow himself to die and the blood drain out. If he died, he had to just die altogether. And I was making a relationship to this in that the worms are the same way. And I thought that the reason why Martin was chained up was because the monsters could not kill him because he had some type of special abilities or something like that, especially when we saw that he had the worms in him. And to take it a step further, I even said that if you recall in that cave or wherever he was, there was other rooms or areas where they had chains and skeletal remains on them. So does that mean that at one point in time, there were people here or certain people who had the ability to kill these monsters or fight against the monsters?
Well, obviously, because those remains were chained up.
Yep.
And then also, too, the tower or wherever they were, you remember it disappeared, right? So I'm wondering what that's about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you guys are onto something, because I remember Boyd saying that, that Martin was being kept alive.
Yep.
And so, but what was going on with him is that he said, this thing that's inside of me is getting stronger and stronger. And so I believe Martin passed this on to him. He said, my blood is now your blood. And so that became something that he was going to ultimately use that resulted in him being able to kill Smiley.
Exactly.
And I know some people were like kind of flipping out like, oh, that's crazy. You went outside like that. But, maybe, we're going to discuss this in more depth, but maybe he kind of understood because remember he told them, hey, he told me this. And that's when he said, oh, I have a plan. And I think that's what made him ultimately leave the clinic.
Yeah.
But now the ability is gone.
We don't know if the ability is gone, like cause like you said, but maybe it is, maybe it's not. And then I want to hear from you guys, our subscribers and stuff like that. And while we're talking about subscribers, don't forget to subscribe. I was looking at the analytics. Literally 80% of our viewers are not subscribers. Come on, y'all. But anyway, what did you guys think of that? I'm gonna say that for later. I want to get through some more of the comments, but I have some feelings, and a lot of people have some feelings about the way that happened, and they thought that it should have occurred differently. But let's keep it moving. Looks like Summer Girl V said, "This is the last season I'm watching week by week. If they get a renewal, I'm binging after the last episode is released. It is too much questions having to wait another week for answers."
I feel you, girl. I feel you. And they actually did get greenlit for a third season.
I haven't been able to confirm that. Somebody shared an article in the group, in a Facebook group, and I kept asking people to verify it because I Googled it, and the only thing I saw was that one article talking about it. And last year, the same thing happened where people were talking about it was greenlit for season 2 and it hadn't yet. So we need to confirm that. If you're a subscriber, leave a link below it if you have a reputable article or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's just part of the build-up. Last year you had a lot of intensity. You had an introduction of characters. You had a lot more of the monsters. Now you're focusing more on the people, and you're getting their backstory. You're getting Jay's backstory. You got Bacca's backstory, and this week we found out, I can't think of her name, but she's addicted to drugs.
Exactly.
So I just think, for me, I think the writers are doing a good job of pulling us in, making us ask all these questions, and then slowly dripping out these reveals to us.
No.
And I think it makes us frustrated. It makes us frustrated and excited at the same time. And it's like, oh, now we're finally getting it. Oh, now it's finally coming together. So, yeah, I know that's been expressed, but I'm liking the flow of the season.
And I'm wondering, in the time of streaming, are we so used to binge watching stuff that when we get something like this that's week to week where we have so many questions, we don't know how to handle it? Or is this something that you should binge watch because you have too many questions?
Yeah. I think it's interesting that you say that, because one of the kind of complaints that a lot of these streamers have is that because they give you all the episodes at once, it makes it difficult to continue to have quality content. So that's why we've seen really in the last, I would say, year and a half, 2 years, where a lot of services, they're starting to go to releasing their shows, that once a week type thing. Because also too,
like
it
it
helps.
did back in our day.
Yeah, and the other thing too is, like you said, it helps the audience to grow because the show gets to build momentum. Because whereas if we like the show, we could have watched everything in one day and moved on to the next thing, but now because they're releasing everything one thing at a time, now the audience is just growing exponentially because I go tell my friend, then somebody go tells their friend, and then everybody's jumping in on it. So for sure, the next one. And I'm glad I didn't talk about it sooner, but this person had a complaint about Boys Plan, and they kind of have some of the same ideas I have, but let's see what they said. They said Boys Plan made no sense. He gives the worms to one of those things, okay, and then they maul him and he can't give his son the blood. So basically they were saying that they felt like that plan was silly because how did Boyd know, first of all, that it would kill the thing? And then let's just say it did. Or even if it didn't, what if the monsters mauled Boyd? Now he's not able to give his son that much needed blood transfusion. So I thought that was kind of weird too when he went out there. And I was like, and then he was surrounded by about 10 monsters. It was really tense.
Yeah, I would have went ahead and gave it to Kenny.
Yeah.
Yeah, but now when I went back and rewatched the show, and he was going and he was describing about what happened to him in the cave, and then when he said, "I have a plan," I think that kind of clicked for me. Like he kind of had a strong hunch that this was going to work, that he was going to be able to pass these worms on, instead of like he was saying, if I give it to Kenny, and Kenny was like, well, I'll just live with what happens. And Boyd is like, you don't want these things inside of you. You don't understand what they're doing to me. And it's like, I can't have it in Kenny. I can't have it in my son. But I think what Martin passed on to me and what he shared with me in that case, I think I'm going to have some ability to do something to these monsters and pass these worms on to them.
Mm-hmm. No, that's
just kind of my thought on it.
I agree. And let's get through some more of these because we want to touch as many of you guys' things as possible. So we may not stay as long as each one moving forward, but we want to touch some of you guys' things. Somebody said that I skipped down to the one that says G Briggs. I think that's their name. Oh, okay, the Smiley one. Somebody was saying that what's going to happen to Smiley's body? Will Smiley turn into a human being, or will Smiley be altered human being that can't be fully trusted? And that was pretty interesting because a lot of people were kind of wondering about not only would he live, but because Smiley looks like he's from a time period of 30, 40, 50 years ago, would he actually turn back into a human and be an old human? So I guess we'll find out in the next episode.
Yeah, because he was laying in the ground, right?
Yep.
Yeah, Christy was standing over the body.
Yep. So moving on to the next one. She said, this is finally a theory which kind of makes sense and kind of explains something. He says, what if they, whoever they are, somehow figured out a way to mine fears in this town? There was a duality between the geography of this town and the consciousness and the subconscious mind. The monsters are the physical manifestations of these fears. Past traumas laying dormant, packed with compartment in the caves of our minds. If these traumas aren't addressed, they can rear their ugly heads at worst times. It's also known as the shadow self. Those kinds that attracted Tabitha that are who they're being mined their fears from. So really interesting point as well.
Now we're getting into Carl Jung philosophy, psychology.
Yeah.
The shadow self.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Yeah, I think that was definitely a really good one. It kind of reminds me of a theory that somebody had in the first season, and I'll say this real quick, and we got to keep it moving, where somebody said that they felt like this whole world was somebody who's sleeping in a coma or something like that. That or even that all of these people are actually like in a coma together. So I don't know.
Maybe there was an accident.
An accident, or they're purposely in some type of coma on purpose, or something to that effect. What's the next one? Oh, this person commented when I talked about the monsters being surprised. They said, I believe the monsters were surprised, because in our last video I said that it was interesting to me that the monsters didn't seem shocked that one of their buddies had got murdered. They just don't express emotion the same. The fact that they stopped pursuing and ignored Bo was enough to see that they altered the events. Quick theory, I think that the monsters were not surprised. This is me just guessing, because I think in the past there have been other monsters that have been killed, and probably by those people with the blood. Move, Luna. The dog, she's sitting over here whining. Luna, move. She over here, you messing up our video. Want some attention. We're babysitting our neighbor's dog. But I think that the monsters had seen another monster maybe die before, because there's a reason that Martin was chained up and those other skeleton remains were there. Those people with that blood, they probably have killed other monsters before.
Who's chaining them up? Not the monsters, right?
Nah, I mean,
but remember that was before they had the things that could keep the monsters at bay. And so maybe there's something to the story where they had figured out how to kill them, and so what they did, they took these people that got the worms, and they said, okay, we know that they can kill people, so we're going to have them chained up, until they die. And then it just so happens that Boyd ended up in the cave when he went to the tree. You never know where you end up when you go into these trees, and he happened to end up in the right place at the right time, and found Martin.
Yeah.
I want to read this comment from Jason Caldwell, and it says, "I think there's not only needs to be sorry guys, I'm having a hard time talking with these braces. Okay. I think there's not only need to be an autopsy of the dead monster, but also a public viewing, so people have something to put their hope in despite the food shortage." What do you think about that?
Yeah,
because that's a big thing that's missing now.
Yeah.
Hope.
But I have a feeling the way that they've been doing stuff in this show this season, that they're gonna hide the damn body from everybody. I don't think that they're gonna share with the town that they got this body.
Too many people, too many ideas.
Or what if the monster gets up? Maybe something happens where I don't know. We're at a point now where I just don't think that they're going to communicate it to the people, because I think what happens is it opens up a can of worms. Then they're going to ask, how did you kill it? Then Boyd has to now explain to everybody in the world that he got these worms from Martin after, going in this tree situation, in which is something that he doesn't seem like he wants to explain to people. But I guess we're definitely going to find out in the next episode for sure.
Yeah, because if it were left up to me, I would pour gasoline on the monster and set him afire.
Yeah.
I wouldn't in the preview it says, bring them inside. I'm not bringing that thing inside.
I think you got to do some type of autopsy to see if there's a weakness, or to see what these things are, because I think if they do an autopsy, I think they're going to discover something pretty weird about the monster or whatever. I even put in one of the Facebook groups, I was like, why don't they just, after Tabitha finally tells people that the monsters sleep in the caves, why don't they go down there and try to kill them while they're asleep? Like, go set them on fire or something. You got all that gasoline, create a bomb, or a gasoline cocktail bomb, and try to set them on fire or something.
Because isn't the pathway to that cave still under the house?
The house, or they can go in where Tabitha and Victor exited, because Tabitha knows where to go, because remember, she had set up that game with them dirty raggedy kids, and the kids came.
Why do we keep calling them kids dirty raggedy kids?
No, they're dusty kids. You say they're dusty.
The dusty
Call them
kids.
park children.
Yes,
Park children.
The park children. So they know where they are, and I'm just like, why not give it a shot? Go on the offensive. But I think that we're going to see them go on the offensive with Randall, especially now that they're kind of saying, what if this is some type of game or whatever. I really think Randall has some type of hunter / survivalist skill sets, and I guarantee you they're gonna try to go on the offensive.
But listen, this is Fromville. You've got far away trees where you can get them, and you end up in another place. Places are disappearing. That cave that Tabitha and Victor came out probably is not even there anymore.
No, Tabitha went to it with the kids. Remember, she just went to them, and
with the raggedy kids.
Yes, she just went to the thing, so it's there. You know what I'm saying?
I want to read this one comment. It's really long, but it's got a lot of good things. Angela E said, number 1, what is Boyd going to do with Dale? Remember, Dale is the guy who is chopping celery and stabbed Ellis.
Yes.
Is Dale going to be into the box? Boyd cannot put Dale in the box without putting Sarah in the box. Or will Dale be kicked out of Colony House? This is the second fight he has had with Ellis. Number 2, the underground cellar in the woods is a very special location. Is it where Victor hid from Christopher? Is it where Jade had a vision? And it's right in the area of the woods where Kelly died from the pipe impaled in her head. 3, other than being a nerd or socially awkward, does Victor always wear a long sleeve shirt buttoned all the way to the top because he has worms too? Mm-hmm. Victor has seen the worms before. He didn't freak out or look shocked when he saw the worms in Boyd's arm. Exactly. And that's crazy because
that's true.
They didn't see the worms before until he was in the clinic and he showed them. So he said, Christy, the worms are in me. She didn't see them. And then later on that night, everybody could see them. So I'm wondering why they could see them now and why Victor was able to see them.
Yeah, no, but Candace, go back to when they were in that truck.
Yeah.
In that trailer, and they came out, and that's when Boyd first had the incident with the worms. Mm-hmm. You saw Victor kind of look at him, but then he turned his head and looked away. So I think Victor saw those worms.
Yeah.
Oh, he did.
Yeah, he saw him, and because Victor had a look of disgust, like, oh, hell to the no. It wasn't like, what is that? It was like, oh, really? You got that going on, and like Victor, there's a lot going on with that, and I think Victor is aware of those worms. But how and why would he know about them though?
Yeah.
What do y'all think?
I don't know at this point. Okay, so Fortune says, why do the residents?
Go ahead.
Why do the residents of Colony House park the van so far away from the front door? Didn't they learn from season 1 that the van should be closed as possible in case of emergency?
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely.
Yards away.
Yeah.
50 yards away.
Number 5. Why is Fatima the only woman in town who may be pregnant? They should have been a lot of pregnancies and births during people's stay in Fromland. How come the only living child in Fromland is Ethan? There should be a lot of kids, infants, and children in Fromland with limited things to do a lot of the time of one's hands. Free booze, dwindling contraceptives. Fatima should not be the only one who's possibly pregnant.
Yeah. It's just like the pandemic. All kind of folk was getting pregnant during the pandemic because folk was working from home.
Actually, studies show that the government was getting ready for like a baby boom. They kept talking about a baby boom, and that did not happen. Yeah. Nobody got pregnant. It was less than way less than they thought.
Yeah.
Or expected.
Yeah.
Well, actually, remember in the very first episode, that little girl got killed when the window wasn't nailed down.
Mm-hmm.
The who got killed?
Yeah,
What
killed.
Little
happened?
girl.
Oh,
The
yeah,
little
yeah,
girl
yeah.
and the mother.
Yeah.
Number 5. How come Victor? Oh wait, how come other than Victor, no one has been stuck in Fromland for a very long time? There should be at least 1 to 3 other people who have been in Fromland for 5 to 10 years. Why is Victor the only one with
Substantive seniority.
Yeah. How has he survived so long and no one else has? Does he have immunity? Is that why his truck doesn't need a
Talisman.
Or does he have the worms too?
Yep. Because some people theorize that the worms make you also somewhat, but would that work when Boyd is out there screaming at him? Because in the forest, when Boyd escaped the room with Martin, the monsters didn't seem to be able to see him. And then Victor, like you said, he's running around hiding and stuff like that. But a lot of people hid though without a talisman back in the day. That's how people got around.
In that sinkhole.
Yeah.
And yeah.
All right. So a lot to digest on. Angeli always has wonderful comments on the channel. Nay Faust said something that was really interesting, and I think her sentiments were felt by a lot of different people. She says that episode 6 was voted by the best of the season by the actors on the show. So I think I will wait until all episodes drop before I watch any more. So some people are really, concerned, and they want to just binge it instead of week by week being led along, I guess, so to speak.
I low-key kind of want to do that too.
I think that's a leftover from the pandemic when you couldn't go anywhere or do anything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I binge watched Tiger King. I pretty much everything that was in the top 10 of Netflix. If it was anything that was, a series of episodes, I would watch them all. And I think we've just kind of gotten accustomed to that.
Yeah.
And, it's like, no, we got to get back to weekly TV. And, and as you were saying earlier, it allows us to talk about it. It gives us a forum so that people can kind of share their ideals and theories, and and again, you just continue to build momentum for the show.
I agree. Amanda Thompson said, additional thought, the blood transference doesn't sit right with me. I'm not medically inclined, but I'm not convinced at all that all the worm blood is out of Boyd. How could it all lead so quickly to Smiley, or am I being too picky? Good statement. Another person, Una Casada, says, do you think you have to be special to receive the gift of the blood worms? Martin seems to indicate that. What do you think? I like that, because even in the last video I said, why does it seem like Boyd is the one that seems to be the chosen one? He finds the talisman. He's given this blood. Is it because he's the one that's exploring? Is it because his nature is caring and giving and he's a leader? What do y'all think about that?
Maybe he is in a coma. It's his coma. Maybe it's his. He is the hero of his story.
Quite possibly. What do you think, Derek?
Yeah, like when Abby was saying, "Hey, this is all a dream." Mm-hmm. Maybe he's in some alternate reality. Mm-hmm. But then again, you've got all these other people with all these just different and unique stories, and a lot of them, there was something transitional in their life going on, and then boom, they ended up there.
Yep.
So I don't know if I necessarily buy that.
Yeah. And then and looks like Endurance CNC says this dude Elgin definitely has been there before. I'm like, how the hell did he know where to go even when he was driving around at night? Like, he should have hit something. And I agree with that. If somebody new to the town, he should have been the last person driving around, because how would you know where you're going? This is probably one of my favorite comments here. And not only is it a good statement, but I think this is Angela E again. But I think that she clearly articulated the people's frustrations with the lack of communication. And she said it amazingly. She says, not only are they not communicating verbally, she's talking about people in Frumland, but they are not communicating in writing. I like this. She said, think about it. Over the years, with the different waves of people who have lived and died in Frumland, how come no one journaled or recorded in writing what has occurred? No one has written a diary. No one has been asked to be the town scribe or historian. No one has been found a diary from 5 to 20 years ago. How come everyone is drawing but no one is writing? She also says, there should be rims and rims of paper in the school they could use to write. Once new arrivals settle in, they should meet with the town historian reporter so they get the details of their arrival can be jotted down for later review by Boyd. Getting written recording of everyone's arrival story and their backstory is very important to me. Also, someone recording the daily events taking place in Frumland is imperative too. Just think what they could have used, avoided, and learned if they had found those kind of documents from Frumidians from the generous past. She gave them a name. Why is anyone writing? Why haven't they found any writing or diaries? Had they been programmed not to write about, analyze, or deep dive? Man, she's saying exactly what somebody else said above is have these, like when, what were they saying, the people above? She said, why is nobody asking questions? And then she's saying something very similar. Have they been programmed not to write, analyze, or deep dive into what is going on and how they got there? Are they not doing these things because they have been brainwashed or reprogrammed or programmed?
You're worried about survival.
That and but I think that she clearly articulated what most people mean when they say communicate. It's not really let's talk right now, let's talk. No, it's a coordinated effort to document what the hell is going on for further review so that when people calm down, when people get settled and you have time to process stuff, you have good data, right? And really, you would think somebody like a Boyd would have implemented something.
All these
like
scientists.
That. Yeah.
Jim is an engineer.
Yeah.
Jade is a
computer
scientist
programmer.
or programmer, something like that. You have all these science-minded people, and nobody is getting data down. Nobody's getting down stories.
Especially the military folk, like Boyd, like that's kind of what they do in the military. Like you take notes and you jot down and you figure out, how to move forward. And I think that was a great comment by Angela there. I think that she truly summarized what people meant when they said nobody's talking. I think what we really mean is nobody is effectively communicating. And that doesn't mean just talking. That means, like she said, taking down notes, writing things down, looking for patterns, being analytical.
And
where were you
going? And they're not talking to each other and sharing information. Like, Tabitha's, not sharing information. Boyd's not sharing information. And, and I agree with Angela. It seems like the more information that you share, then you're able to take and collate all this stuff, and maybe you come up with some understanding of, what the heck is going on and how do we get out of here? Exactly. And the only person that really tried to do anything was Jim and Tabitha. Remember, they started writing on the walls?
Yes.
And they were like, okay, we got to get them. Okay, all these people are coming from different parts of the country. Some are like, in California, but they're ending up here. How is that? So somebody should be pulling all this together, but maybe there's some weird mind control that's keeping them from doing it.
Yeah, and we'll definitely find out. Leave a comment below. What do you guys want to see in episode 7? I'm truly excited. I think I'm more excited for this episode than I was for 6.
Me, definitely.
Because now the monster's dead. Now we get to figure out what they're gonna do, and then also I'm liking that it seems like Randall and Jim and Tabitha and these folks are finally kind of having some meaningful dialogue. Especially Tabitha finally telling these people that.
How many more episodes do we have?
It's only 10. It's only 10. So we're almost over.
Okay.
We're almost over.
We're almost in season 3.
Look, we better get a season 3. A lot of people, but when you look at the ratings, From is actually in the top the top 5 every week almost in streaming. And I think recently it was number 1. It had beat out what was that show that we had watched a little bit but didn't finish? The new one where they're stuck on the ground in the
Silo.
It had beat out Silo and stuff like that. So it's definitely got a strong following. So I'm excited.
Does that have anything to do with the whole production of Lost scandal?
What you mean?
Harold Perrineau. Oh, there's been articles, and I think a book is coming out about the production, the actors and stuff, and there was some racist stuff going on and sexist stuff going on, and about how just the show was just behind the scenes like a dumpster fire.
That should be interesting.
Yeah, guys, right now I'm on Rotten Tomatoes, and they have the top 25 streaming shows.
Yeah.
And number 1 was Queen Cleopatra, season 1. Number 2 is From.
Yep.
But the Rotten Tomatoes rating is 20% for Queen Cleopatra and 100% on the critics for From.
Wait a minute. So 20% of people did not like Cleopatra?
Well, it only has 20% people like it.
How the heck is that the case? And it's at the top show.
Yeah, it says it's the top. It's the most. It's what's being watched the most. But I guess people have watched it and they're deciding they don't like it. But From came in number 2, but they're 100% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah. From is definitely hanging in there. You know, like I said, I'm super geeked for episode 7, and to see what's going to happen.
Now I think it's awesome or great if you just found out about the show and you binge watch season 1 all the way to now.
You living your best life. That's kind of like how it was for me with Game of Thrones, because I didn't get into Game of Thrones until
one day,
the very last
I will
season.
Recount the story of how Patrick got into Game of Thrones. And a little hint, I begged this man for years.
It's true.
To watch this show.
It's true. Look, last night I was watching House of the Dragon. Watched 2 episodes because they just do such a great job. But anybody want to say anything else before we go ahead and let the people go?
No. I think I'm good.
Well, if you liked what you heard, you like what you have seen, you know what to do. What do you hit, Patrick?
That's subscribe, baby, and turn on the bell. Or else what's going to happen, Derek and Candace?
You going to Fromlin.
We going to put you in the box.
Gonna put you in the box. Ain't that right, Moon? Moon, you have a comment?
Somebody in the last video, Moon wasn't in it. They was like, "Where's the dog at?" Yeah, but thanks for joining us, Derek. We thank y'all for tuning in with us. God, that was a long one, almost 45 minutes. That's gonna be a lot of editing. All right, y'all. Peace.
All right, peace.
Stop recording.